Hey everybody, welcome back to Inside Man United. My name is Rowan Brennan, and a tough day with regards the result. Arsenal 3, Manchester United 1. A result I think many people deem not reflective of the game, and a tough match to watch. But I'm going to dedicate a whole episode to the match. This episode is more focusing on the news that kind of crept out before the game by the omissions we saw from the squad. And we're of course talking about Jadon Sancho and the information that we received pretty late this evening. I'm recording this today. The evening of the match. So I'm getting this ready for tomorrow. And yeah, it just kind of came out quite late. Not a lot of people are covering it at the moment. More information has to come out, but a lot has happened, and we definitely need to peel back a few layers and start looking into this and what it means, both for the player, the manager, the club, and what Manchester United needs to do going forward. Because this could be a big one. So the big news coming out of Old Trafford or London today, it's not actually the result. Arsenal 3, United 1. I'm going to dedicate, like I said, a whole episode to that. What happened, what went wrong, what went right, etc. But the big news at the end of the evening was comments made by Eric Ten Hag about Sancho's absence, Jadon Sancho's absence from not just the first 11, but from the matchday squad. I'd made some predictions earlier this week that Sancho could maybe get a start ahead of Martial. So poor has Martial been, and Sancho was pretty decent in preseason. Yet Martial starts getting starts as soon as he's finished, despite missing the entire preseason. And we know how important Ten Hag considers match fitness and getting game time and minutes under your belt before you're ready to be coming on to play for the first team, let alone starting. So Sancho's omission was very curious, as was McTominay's. These are two players that were deemed to be fit, had played recently, and it was just a bit of a strange omission. And I felt something was off with that, because it's strange that Martial would be persisted with, given how much Sancho played in preseason and managed to play reasonably okay in that false nine, to then just be suddenly dropped out of nowhere. I thought something was up. I genuinely did. I said it in my review of the match. I was like, these two are missing, and no one really knew why, but I'm sure more news would come out. In the case of Scott McTominay, Eric Ten Hag was asked in the press conference where he was, and he said Scott's out because he's ill. So good, honest answer. He was then asked about Jadon Sancho, and he replied that Jadon wasn't training correctly and wasn't fit enough to be playing in the first team squad, that he has decisions to make about the front line, and that Jadon didn't make it to the team this week. Pretty big comment to make in public. This is a player that has clearly gotten on Ten Hag's last nerve. And Ten Hag seems to be a patient guy. He's a good man manager. He seems to command the respect of players, and players seem to buy into his philosophy and the way he kind of mucks in, especially in the first couple of weeks when he joined the team on that run, to kind of, punish himself along with them, and show that this was a unit that was together, that they were united. And he seems to be a fair man. So for him to have basically hit his wit's end and to call someone out publicly like that means there has to be something really bad going on in the background, which I thought may have been the case given how few minutes Sancho's been given in the actual Premier League outside of preseason now that Martial is fit. I had a hunch something was up, and it's clear that something is up. Now, I've spoken to a bunch of people about this, and some think that Sancho needs to get his thumb out of his ass, and Eric Ten Hag is absolutely right to publicly call him out. That would not be my take. I do believe there has to be a kind of us and the civilians kind of approach from footballers, where there's just certain things that don't leave the locker room, the training ground, the stadium, the team, whatever. There's just certain things that fans and the public and the media just simply don't need to know. And I don't agree with Eric Ten Hag saying what he said, because it was just going to create fuss, attention, unnecessary drama. You're calling out a very expensive asset. Now, people were also saying, well, he did it with Garnacho, said he was late, and, he was late for training, so he was punished. That happened with Rashford as well. These were, guys that were late. They got a slap on the wrist, and, they came back. This was a shot at a guy's attitude and his inability to train. It wasn't because he was late. If you're late, you're late, and rules are rules. But this was, no, he's not training correctly. His mentality isn't there. It's not just he woke up late and made a mistake. Yeah, you got to take your licks, but he'll be back. He just has to serve his time. This is a parting shot, not a parting shot. It's a shot at Sancho's attitude, his commitment, his commitment to his own career, his commitment to Manchester United, his commitment to his teammates. That's a very big thing. It's totally different to the Garnacho and Rashford kind of sanctions. They were almost self-imposed because the guys broke rules that are there for everyone. This is something that Sancho has been manifested himself through a poor attitude. Despite my frustration with Sancho, to be honest, if we had a chance to get 50 million for him over the summer, I'd have sold Sancho in a heartbeat. I don't think he's going to make it. I think it's 56 games now in total, 9 goals, 6 assists. It's an appalling return when you see what he's done in Germany. And personally, I just don't think he's going to make it. He has not taken this opportunity. He's had 2 years. I'm not a big believer in giving someone a third year. I think United have persisted with average players for far too long. And we've waited, like Martial is a classic case of this player. You're just waiting to spark into life, and it's just chance after chance after chance, and people holding on to these ever fading memories of them having good games and good moments and match-winning goals. And you're like, yes, 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 if we can just get more of that. And it's not going to happen with Sancho. It's just not. He's been given the carrot. He was given special treatment. Go off to the Netherlands. We're going to give you special one-to-one treatment. I'm going to train you up. I'm going to get you to the level of fitness that I want. I'm taking the time to pick you out and say, listen, I need you ready, and I want to give you the attention that you deserve. He was taken away. Now, some might say that that's a damning thing to do, to kind of suspend you from class while you go get rehab. But listen, he felt he needed it. I don't think he's picking on Sancho for no reason. Ten Hag doesn't seem like that kind of manager. But I don't agree with Eric Ten Hag calling out a player like that. I believe some things just need to be kept in-house. Just say, yeah, he had a bit of a sniffle. We just didn't want to take the risk, and we think we have enough up front, and we're looking forward to welcoming Rasmus into the first team. We think he might get his debut. And then get the attention, get the reporters talking about Rasmus Højlund. Lie. Managers lie to the media all the time. Football clubs lie to its fans all the time. It's in the best interests of the club to lie to us sometimes, and this is one of those cases. Eric Ten Hag should not have done this, because even if, and we'll get to Sancho's response, even if Sancho hadn't responded, it's still a bit like, oof, that's a bit of a dig, and it's just going to cause questions. Now, if this is a manager that's at his wit's end, and this is like his last, he's taken a free throw from 50 yards to try and, score a point and just get something through to this kid because nothing else is working, fine. Maybe it's a Hail Mary shot at trying to rescue Sancho from like shaming him publicly into performing, because, if you can't do it with the carrot, maybe you need to do it with the stick. I don't agree with how Ten Hag has approached this. I think it was inviting unnecessary attention. Just when we start to see the back of the Greenwood case, we're already in a very poor run of form. We've just lost to Arsenal, and all this explodes. The Ronaldo saga has been put behind us. The takeover talk, that's now been, tabled. It looks like it's not going to go ahead. So that's kind of, taking a bit of a backseat as well. The protests against the owners, I'm sure, is not going to go away. But, we just need to focus on football. And for this to happen, you're like, Jesus, lads, come on. And it seems that now Sancho has responded. immediately, essentially saying that he's been a scapegoat. It's happened for a long time, to not believe what has been said, basically calling the manager a liar and being unfair and picking on him. This is a very public spat between Eric Ten Hag and Sancho. I've never seen as public a spat between manager and player since the Beckham incident with Ferguson. And anytime there was an incident with Ferguson and another player, that player was gone, whether it was Roy Keane, whether it was Dwight York, whether it was David Beckham, whether it was Jaap Stam, or any other player. Van Nistelrooy had an issue with Ronaldo, out the door. I don't see how there's a route back for Sancho here. To publicly come out so quickly and lambast what the manager said as being untrue, unfair, and basically lies, and that he believes he's trained well and he believes this is unfair, and there's things that other people just don't know. This is kind of tabloidy. He said, she said, kind of throwing stuff across the aisle at each other. It's the last thing we needed. This is an ugly, ugly scenario, and the window has just closed. So unless a bid's coming in from Saudi, because their window is still open, I don't see Sancho going to Saudi at his young age. But this devalues him as an asset because people know Ten Hag wants him out of the club. It's going to devalue him. It doesn't look good for Sancho's attitude. Is it going to scare off potential elite level or high level suitors that may have been interested in taking him? They're like, ooh, I don't want to take that headache on. Let's remember, Sancho has discipline problems. I always admired Sancho for moving from City to Germany. It's not really something English players ever really did. English players were very tied to playing in England. Very few went abroad. And if they did, it wasn't, it was because they'd no other choice and they're going to a low level, second division in Greece or something like that. What he did was go, no, I'm going to back myself. It was in 2017, Man City wanted to keep him. And Pep Guardiola had, a lot of very positive things to say about Jadon Sancho. He was one of the hot kind of commodities along with Phil Foden. And he was offered a contract, but it was during this kind of time where he was getting offered the contract that City bought Gabriel Jesus, Nolita, Bernard Silva, and Leroy Sané. And two of them kind of, three, bar Nolito, actually went on to have reasonable careers at City before eventually moving on, but winning silverware and, playing an important role at some stage. And Jadon Sancho just went, I don't see a route in. And of course, Pep Guardiola framed it as, we offered them to challenge the challenge of trying to get into the first team. If you're a young lad and you see them spending that much money on those kind of players, it's going to be a little bit discouraging. Why would they have spent the money if they have so much confidence in me? Why didn't they just have me come through? I'm free. Why would you spend all that money on these players if you've got such confidence in me? So he was offered £30,000 a week. I think it was a record for a youth player of his age. It was a record contract. And he said no. That takes massive balls and a serious confidence and self-belief and arrogance to do that. And he said, see ya. And he went off to Dortmund and obviously lit it up in Dortmund. Now, for those who know me outside of the podcast, I don't rank the German league at all. It's a third-rate league. We've seen too many players come from that league just with big numbers, fancy numbers, looking, Bundesliga this, Bundesliga that. They come to the Premiership and absolutely fall flat in their face because they're just not that good. They look good in Germany because it's not a very good league. Just because it has Bayern Munich in it doesn't mean it's a good league. Dortmund are a shadow of their former selves. And too often we've been burned with players from there. Mario Götze, even when he went to Bayern, didn't work out for him, wasn't able to cut it at the elite level. And that's what Bayern buy players for, the Champions League, not to win the Bundesliga. He didn't work out. We've had Kagawa come over, didn't work out. Mkhitaryan didn't work out. Now it's Sancho, didn't work out. And other players that have gone to other clubs. But Sancho went and ripped it up and did very, very well. Now, before he was sold, when those offers for those players were coming in, Sancho was asked to sign that contract. He refused to sign the contract and said, no, I'm not signing that contract. I'm not committing myself to the club with that kind of stuff happening. He was then dropped from the squad that was going to go onto the US tour. And as a result of being dropped from the squad for the tour because he didn't sign his contract, he then refused to train. And that's when Pep Guardiola went, right, we're getting rid of this guy. So he's not afraid to throw his toys out of the pram or to stick up for himself or to dig his heels in when he thinks he's been wronged. Whether he's right or wrong is another question, but this is a kid who sticks up for himself and doesn't put up with any shit from people. That's not always a good trait. Sometimes you need to just button your mouth and just get on with it and just let the chips fall where they may and have a little bit of humility and let the process run its course. Doesn't look like Sancho's taken that route here. So you had that in Man City. Then when he went to Dortmund, he had numerous disciplinary issues at Dortmund, from being late to training to sometimes not turning up to training altogether. Now, does that come with the territory of banging in the numbers that he did and he just felt he could do what he wanted? Doesn't matter. The guy missed training. He was late. He missed it consistently. His attitude is wrong. It's not good. It's not good, particularly for a fella who seems to be so focused in building his career and taking these moves away from City and going to, backing yourself. If you're going to back yourself, you got to turn up to training as well. So a lot of disciplinary issues at Dortmund as well. Well documented, like it's on record. And then he had the exact same issue when he comes to United. Yeah, he's not training well, attitude issues, even before Ten Hag arrived back in 2022, early 2022, and before that. This was a player that had disciplinary issues. Then Ten Hag comes in, obviously sees there's something up with this kid and decides he needs specialist one-to-one training to get him up to match fitness and to get him refocused on the job at hand and what his future role at Manchester United is going to be and how he needs to prepare for that. So he's given him every opportunity. And then Sancho comes out and says this, which is, it's very incendiary, and I don't see a way back for Jadon Sancho with this. Regardless of his ability, it is very important for Ten Hag to show that he will not be undermined, and he's not going to be fought with in the media by a member of staff that he believes to be letting himself, the club, and his teammates down with his attitude and his lack of commitment to training and developing his skills to help the Manchester United cause. So even if Sancho was putting in fine performances on principle, you got to clip a guy. That's it. Sorry. You broke the cardinal rule, which is talking back to the manager and talking back to the manager in public. Now you can say Ten Hag shouldn't have said what he said. Don't matter. He's at the top of the spear. He's top of the tree. He's the boss. He's King Kong. He can do what he likes, whether you like it or lump it. You either box clever, you get knocked out. And it looks like Sancho is going to get a one-way ticket out of this club, if not in January, then maybe in the summer. But he's certainly going to go for less than what you could have got for him. And he was going to be worth about half of what we bought him for. His performances have been that poor. So this is a really sticky situation for United. Yet another storm in a teacup now that... It's not really a storm in a teacup. This is quite serious, but the media are going to have a field day with this. It's going to be question after question. It's going to distract away from other things that the media might want to concentrate on, or that Ten Hag would want the media to concentrate on. This is bad news. And Sancho had an opportunity because, like, Ten Hag's golden boy, Anthony, he is stinking the place out. He is so poor. And Ten Hag is under immense pressure now. To either justify why he spent 100 million quid on this kid when he hasn't even shown he's worth 30 million quid. I think there's a number of people that would have Anthony Elanga back in a heartbeat. You can say, well, he showed how little he could do in 50, 60 games. He's got 1 goal and 1 assist with Forest, and he's doing a hell of a lot more than Anthony's ever shown us. And there's an opportunity there for Sancho to creep into that right-hand space. Like, it's just set up. Greenwood gone. Anthony not playing well. Pelistri's on the bench. You're still the big marquee signing. Yes, Garnacho and Rashford have got the left taken over, but you could do the right wing quite well if you wanted. He's got the ability to beat a man. He likes to take a man on with tricks and feints and dummy step overs, dribbles. That's what he's known for. Now he hasn't really been able to show it, but god damn, if there was ever an opportunity to cement a place in the team, it's now, with Anthony stinking the place up. And it looks like he's ruined that opportunity. I don't see how there's a way back. And United have been crippled with injuries and departures and X, Y, and Z in this squad. And now we've got a player it's not through injury. It's not through, an existing court case, like, or potential court case like Greenwood, like a domestic violence case. This is a guy who's just decided to mouth off with having been dropped and has decided he's going to go to war with the manager publicly because he's not going to accept having these things said about him. This is kind of Roy Keane levels of, I'm not going to take that, and I'm going to shove it up the manager, and we'll see what he says. This is bad for Sancho. It's going to be great for Pellistri. It's going to be great for everyone else on that forward line. And to be honest, I think the best thing right now would be for Sancho to be sold. I don't see a route back for Jadon Sancho here. There's just no way back on principle. He can't be kept around. Having been in trouble and not producing the performances that we would have expected from him. It's not like this is a Ronaldo who scored 18 goals the year previous and might have a little bit of performance-related leverage in this situation. This is a guy who's been playing badly, has had discipline problems at every club he's been to one degree or another, has pissed off every manager he's had for one reason or another, and has not even come close to justifying the fee that was paid for him at Manchester United. Gets called out by his manager, has it explained why he's missing, and doesn't even let the embers of that die down, and he just pours a big pile of gasoline on top of it. I don't see a route back for him. I hope he's sold. It just stinks of a kind of a Lingard, Pogba-esque type young talent who's not quite doing what the hell they're supposed to do, and they're going to kick off and start kicking up a stink because things aren't going their way. We've had a little bit too much of that at this club over the last few years, and if it starts to happen, cut that rod out. And I'm sorry that Sancho has not worked out. There was so much promise. I didn't think it was going to work out even with his numbers from Bundesliga, because after Kago and Mkhitaryan, I don't trust forward attacking players from Bundesliga and especially from Dortmund. And it's come to pass that he hasn't been good enough. Not for United anyway. So how this pans out in the next few days, weeks and months, we'll see. But I think we can wave bye-bye to Jadon Sancho. See you in the next one.